both sides often, always lay claim to delivering progress, but from where I'm sitting, I suppose it's a plague on both houses, because both left and right, the morality that they present damages women's lives. And so long as we have history books and morality lessons written by men, institutions ruled and governed by men, economic templates written to the male experience. I mean, Adam Smith is the ultimate, right? His irony-free declaration of man's self-interested man, while he sort of had his meals brought by his mother. Basically, this for me is the overarching issue, which is that both sides bring a morality that doesn't see women. So on the right, we've got a system that prizes family values, conservatism based on very narrow and quite oppressive views about what families should be. So white, middle class, heteronormative. But from that position, you can still support and pass laws on, for example, gay marriage, because it follows views on the sanctity of marriage and a sort of emulation of heteronormativity, if you like. And from the right, that sort of morality allows women to thrive when they fall within conservative values. So this idea of a meritocracy, for example, where women can make it to be prime minister if they're just as good as men. If they try harder, they can get further. And this declaration that the right it does better for women because they've had 2 female prime ministers, without sort of examining the idea that 2 women in 200 years is probably not that much of a meritocracy. But on the right, it's when women fall outside of that very narrow vision of morality that women are punished. So 2-child limit on child tax credit. Perfect example of punishing families that don't meet conservative values. Hits Black and Asian families the hardest. Runnymede Trust, I think, yes, and the Women's Budget Group show that the combination of cuts and changes to universal credit would hit Black women the most, leaving them £5,000 worth off a year on average. Now, it's interesting because I think then this strong moral attachment to family values does mean that the right can pass useful legislation that recognises, for example, violence against women and girls, criminalising female genital mutilation, revenge porn, the bringing of the domestic abuse bill, but only because that violence is seen as egregious to the morality of family and as anomalous episodes rather than as a result of structural inequality that women experience. And that's why the forthcoming domestic violence bill is so slim, which is a huge disappointment coming from Theresa May's government. What is good about it is that it makes abuse in front of children an aggravating factor. It strengthens family law courts. But there is no funding, additional funding, ring-fenced funding, protected, sustainable, sufficient funding for the services run by and for women living with and escaping from male violence. And of course, the right has presided over austerity that has made poor women even poorer, disproportionately being paid for by women. 86% of it has been paid by women. Now, on the left, of course, we have, as Jeremy JC was saying yesterday, the left is the party of women, the left is the party of equality. I disagree fundamentally with this because the left has a structural analysis and a morality that is limited very much to class, and particularly in this latest incarnation can't see any oppression that's not Western and capitalist. And that is why in the past, for example, men on the left have condoned FGM as a cultural practice, because they don't see the oppression of Black and Asian women by Black and Asian men. It doesn't fit into their structural class analysis. The left is obsessed with working class men's jobs. Jeremy Corbyn's tour this summer, his Made in Britain Brexit plan that affirms his 50-year focus on manufacturing, which is frankly a slap in the face to millions of women who disproportionately employed in service sector. Do you know how the Treasury classifies a mother raising 2 children and caring for an elderly parent?
Economically unproductive?
Economically inactive.
There you go.
Inactive. And the left doesn't have an answer to that because it ignores the vast amount of work, unpaid and low-paid, care work that women do. And I think, if we're going to talk about morality of equality, I would expect Labour not just to want to nationalise everything from railways to water to energy to Royal Mail, but actually to do something about social care, which has an 80% female workforce and is absolutely on its knees. So, yeah, I mean, the centre-left has made some progress, particularly on representation. But in the 2015 election, it was a huge disappointment to me to see the left did not make a case against austerity, despite it being evident at that point that women were disproportionately paying for it. It just bargained with itself over how much more of it we could take.